Are you middle-aged and staring down the path to retirement and feeling the weight of all those missed investment opportunities? Are you pondering whether or not the ship to building wealth has passed? Join me as we unravel the myth that investing is a young person's game. So let's dive in together and delve into the truth of whether or not it really is too late to invest for the future. I just wanted to share with you, this is one of my most passionate, actually very, very near and dear to my heart topics, because I didn't really get started in investing for my future until I was 40. And so this topic really does bring to me the reason of why I started this channel and why I'm trying to get more and more people to realize that it's really never too late to start investing for your future. Now, in this first section, I would like to debunk several myths. The first myth is that you need a lot of money to start investing. And this is actually very untrue. With the advent of brokerages that don't require a very high minimum or even transaction fees, the barrier to actually starting investing is very low. I would say at the very minimum, you should have an emergency fund of a couple $1,000s so that if you needed to, you can pull from that emergency fund before reaching in and touching your investments. There are even things like fractional shares where instead of buying like an entire pizza, you could just buy one slice of pizza, and that's what a fractional share is. Instead of buying the entire share, you can just buy a piece of share of that stock or whatever equity it is that you're buying. So it's actually very convenient, and you can, purchase this thing as such as $5 or $10 of something instead of waiting until you have 100, 200, 300, depending on the value of the stock, how much money it is to buy a whole share of that stock. So things have been so much more conducive to lowering the entry to barrier for investors, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. On the good side, you don't need to save up a large amount of money to start investing. You don't need to have money for transactional fees and take those into consideration when you do make your transactions. And also, you don't have to wait to save up for an entire share to buy something. You can just buy a fractional share. So all of these barriers have been reduced or removed, and that is so beneficial for anyone who is starting investing now. The second myth that I really want to address is that it's too late to start investing. Now, the reason why this is such a myth is that even though time is on your side when you are younger, there are so many aspects of being a slightly older investor, such as maybe having slightly higher purchasing power. Maybe you are in the stage of your life where you're making more than you ever have before. Granted, you may have more expenses, but if you can reduce those expenses and try to maximize what you can invest at this time in your life. You are in your prime money making years, and even though you could be in your 40s, you do have decades ahead of you if you plan to retire at 60 or so, and that means that you can take advantage of compound interest, which is what Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, and it's basically where you take the interest and you gain interest on that interest. So not only just the principal, but you also gain interest on the principal and the interest, and then the whole entire amount then compounds over time. And time is really the factor that we're looking to expand here. And even though if you are starting a little bit later in life, and this could be an aspect where the younger investor does have an advantage. However, when you're young, you don't have as much money as you may do now, and you may not have the mindset to withstand kind of the ups and lows of the market. So if you are investing and you have a steady mind about you, looking at that compound interest decades ahead, you really can take your age and also your position in life, the buying power that you have in your life, the earning power that you have in your life, and take it to an advantage. Third myth that I'd like to address is that investing is just too complicated for beginners. Investing used to be something that was very complicated, and it was only in the hands of brokers, and you had to have like a broker, and we had transaction fees, and you had to have a certain amount of money to even get started with a mutual fund, for example. However, nowadays, as I mentioned before in myth number 1, the barrier to investing has gone down significantly, and with that, also the amount of knowledge available to the average person. So really, nowadays, you don't just have information from books. You can have information from books, YouTube channels, podcasts, blogs, any kind of information that's generally free. And a lot of this information now is no longer kind of this very, very secret. It's not a secret. I can recommend very many books, and one that I can highly recommend is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. It's a primer that just gives it very simply on how to get investing, with even investing in one thing, one particular asset. It's a mutual fund called VTSAX. You can also get the ETF version, which is VTI, and these are all delineated in the book. Really, information is so much more accessible now, and really all it really takes is a little bit of your time to wrap your head around what you want to do, the financial goals and the strategy is all you really need. Stick by that financial goal and that strategy until you attain your financial goal. Now, in this next section, I want to really reiterate why it is important to invest. So if you had $10,000 and you just stuck it in a savings account, you really would get very little interest on your money, which means not only are you not gaining anything in your account other than the lump sum that you put in it, you are losing money to something called inflation. So inflation is when the power of your money or the value of your money actually decreases over time. And you hear it on the news all the time, inflation, inflation, inflation. So it basically means when you go to the supermarket and you buy your groceries, you just don't have the same purchasing power as you did before. So $1 of groceries can only buy you a certain amount this year, but it can actually buy you less next year. So that $10,000 that you put in the bank, you put in the savings account, it actually decreases in purchasing power every year. And over decades, it actually really erodes the value of your money. So it's so important to think not only of saving. Saving is one aspect, and it's really the beginning. You really need to think about investing. Now, investing is where we put our money into something where hopefully it can grow. However, at the same time, it's important to consider that investing means that there is risk. When you put your money in the savings account, yes, it may not grow, but at the same time, you typically would not lose that amount unless it is to something like inflation. However, when you invest, there is a risk that you could even lose your principal amount, and not to something like inflation, but actually to lose the value of what your money was worth. So if you have like $10,000 and you put it in the stock market, yes, on average, the stock market has gained 10% year on year. However, some years it may go 30% and some years it might be negative 20. And on average, we reach somewhere around 10%. So it's not a year by year situation, but an average of 10% that you're looking at. And the more high risk investment vehicles that you're looking into, the more risk that you take, generally the higher the returns. However, the higher the risk means also the higher the chance that you're going to lose more than you can handle in terms of your principal. It's also very important to think about your short-term versus your long-term goals. So in terms of your financial goals, you may have short-term financial goals, things like maybe planning for a wedding or planning for a vacation, and those kind of financial goals you can set money aside to actually reach those goals so that they don't eat into your budget. It's like, oh, we're going to spend $2,000 on having a vacation. You actually planned ahead for that vacation and you budgeted for that vacation. So those are some short-term financial goals. On the other hand, long-term financial goals would be things like retirement, or things like maybe a child's education, or things that are going to be on the realm of 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years. And in terms of retirement, this is one where there's a lot of delayed gratification, because you may be like in your 30s, 40s, and 50s and have to look 10, 20, 30, 40 years before you actually can use that money. So thinking about things that are long-term in the distance can be difficult. This is not something that humans were designed to do. And we actually, nowadays, most of our employers are not going to provide the kind of pension that previous generations enjoyed. And so therefore, as a society, globally, we're looking at a situation where we have a retirement crisis and people need to plan for their retirement. So this is one of the issues that I'm so passionate about, and it's really something that, like I said before, is near and dear to my heart, because I didn't know that I needed to plan for my retirement especially as an expat living abroad and not really in the social security system, I realized that I needed a plan entirely for my own retirement. And so I started my journey, and I've been documenting my journey for the past year or so on YouTube. And I'm trying to reach $1 million or more invested for retirement. And you can watch any of my portfolio updates and see where I am. And actually, it's something that really keeps me on track, because I know I need to make those updates every month, and it helps me to see where my portfolio is going, how much I'm putting in, am I reaching my goals, and so forth. And also, I'd like to mention that with this and all that, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just someone on the internet sharing her journey and trying to get more people aware about getting themselves sorted financially. And so, please do not put money into the stock market that you want to use in less than 5 years, because anything that is long term, you can invest in the stock market, because if you invest and your money goes down in value, you don't want to be pulling out your money when the money is actually down. So you don't know when the stock market is going to be up, you don't know when the stock market is going to be down, but if you have a time horizon of at least 5 to 10 years, you can really think that is a long-term money that you want to put in the stock market. You don't need it right away. But anything that you need right away, you might want to put it in a high yield savings account or a money market account or in a CD, and at least it's gaining interest, something that is better than putting it in a savings account. However, if you want to have money on hand, either have it on a savings account or a checking account. And it's so important to increase your education and awareness about financial topics. The more comfortable you feel talking about money and talking to others about money, looking at, numbers and working through the numbers is actually so helpful to your future. Because if you stay in the mode where you're fearful and you're not sure what to do, then actually you're doing yourself a disservice and you're really hindering your future, because one day you're going to look back and realize that you wasted so much time. I'm telling you right now, get started. The time to get started is now, and hopefully you can get information from this channel or other channels or books or podcasts or blogs, and there's so much information out there. Sure, it takes a little bit of weeding. Sure, it takes maybe a weekend or so to get your strategy going, but it's so worth it, because what is more important to your life than you? And you need to take care of your future self, because no one is going to take care of you in your future as well as you can take care of yourself. And it's something that, so just break that inertia. Please don't keep stuck to your chair. Let this be the call to action for you to get started on your investing journey. And if you need any help, please look for the information that you need, where you can find it, and hopefully Start Smart Investing can be one of your resources as well. So I'm going to leave you with a quote by Arthur Ashe, and it is, "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." And thank you so much for watching.